Well, hey friends, today we're going to talk about traditional painting versus digital painting, the differences between the two, and which you should choose. Stay tuned. So this is a topic that has a lot of different opinions and sometimes very strong opinions on either side. And today, hopefully, we're going to kind of break down some of the reasons for and against each type of medium. Let's start off with traditional painting. Now, the first reason that comes to my mind is that it's tactile. You're actually taking paint, dipping it in, and then painting it on a surface like a board or canvas or paper, and there's a smell to it. You can feel it. You can get your hands dirty. There's something about painting traditionally that's just really enjoyable, and there's a sensation to it. So it's fun to actually use paint. I've really enjoyed the process of using it over the years. That's just different than digital. One of the things that I've been thinking about a lot regarding traditional medium is that you have an original to sell. You have a piece that's actually stretched on canvas or paper or board, and you can sell that as well on top of the prints that you also sell. With digital painting, there is not an original piece that you can sell and someone's going to hang on their wall. They're all going to be prints. And so if you're looking to make some extra cash, traditional is probably the way to go for you there. And in addition to that, traditional will actually bring sometimes a little bit more money depending on the case. The other reason is that traditional painting just has a history to it. We've been doing it for ages, and art buyers are used to getting actual paintings. And today we're still trying to figure out the cost of actual digital work. So here are a few reasons why not to traditionally paint. First off, it can be just really messy. If you don't like getting your hands dirty, then maybe traditional painting is not for you. Probably no matter what you're going to do, you're going to get paint on your hands. I mean, I know painters who get paint all over their clothing and have special pants and shirts for it. I believe that you should always be in control of your paint, and it shouldn't get everywhere, but things are just going to happen. With that in mind, you're just going to need space. You're going to need a place to put all your paints and your brushes, and to store all your canvases or boards or paper or whatever you're using. You're going to need more space to do traditional painting. Now, depending on the medium you're using for painting, the cleanup can be fairly time consuming. With watercolors, it's really fast to dip out your brushes in water and then you're good to go. But acrylics and oils can take more time depending on how you have it set up. Now, I have a whole video about why you shouldn't be cleaning your oil painting brushes, and go ahead and check that out. And that will help you save some time. But nevertheless, it's just going to take more time to do traditional painting. Along with the cleanup is the setup time. It's just going to take time to set up your space and get going, get all your paints out on your canvas. It's just going to take time in order to do that. Also, you're going to have to spend time buying supplies, making sure you have enough of your paints and brushes and boards and mediums and whatever it is that you're painting on. You're going to need to spend some time getting those supplies. Another reason to not do traditional painting is that it just takes longer to finish. If you're working in oils, you may have to wait for layers to dry. The whole process, no matter which one you're in, is just going to take considerably more time. For the most part, there's exceptions to this rule, but the investment of time is generally more reserved for traditional mediums. So these are just some of the reasons why you should or shouldn't do traditional painting, but there's of course a lot more. But this gives you an idea of which one maybe you should choose and which one works for you. Let's move on to digital painting. Digital painting is super easy to get into. All you really need is an iPad and an Apple Pencil, or maybe a Wacom, however you say it, a tablet that will be fairly inexpensive that you can just hook up to your computer or laptop, and boom, you're pretty much ready to digitally paint. There's even free programs that will help you digitally paint. If I'm on the computer, my choice is Photoshop. On the iPad, it's Procreate. One of the biggest advantages to digital painting is the fact that you can make large changes extremely easily. Not only is there an undo function, which if you make a mark, you can just undo it again, but you can also change huge areas of your painting fairly easily. It's really easy to put a lot of paint down very quickly when you're painting digitally. You can change your brush size just by a keystroke, making it bigger or smaller. Another huge advantage to digitally painting is working in layers. My goodness, is this super helpful to work on a layer, and if you don't like it, you can just hide or delete it. You can also stack things on top of each other. Now, this works in traditional painting as well, but the fact that you can move those layers around and manipulate them is tremendously helpful. And also with layers, they can affect the layers below them differently. You may have a layer that is full opacity, or one that the colors bleed through, like a multiply layer. There's just different ways that you can affect the layers below or the layers above, depending on what you're trying to do. You can also change colors really quickly in digital painting. You could be in a blue and suddenly move to a green with just a few keystrokes, and that's really helpful, especially during the color comp process. Adjustment layers are a huge asset to the digital painter, as you can make large sweeping changes to your painting with just a few layers. You can have, for example, a color balance layer, which you can adjust the colors of your entire painting with just sliders rather than having to go and repaint it in. This can be used not only to make changes to your colors, but also to add unity to your colors. Probably one of the largest benefits of digitally painting is masking. Now, there's masking fluid in watercolor, but this is considerably different than that. With masking, you can select a specific area, or let's say a figure, and paint only on that figure or only behind that figure. And that's very, very easy to do. And so you're not doing a lot of painting around things in digital painting. You can just mask out a certain area and paint around it or behind it. One of the reasons I started to go digital is because it's faster for clients to get. When you're trying to get work to clients, they have typically fast deadlines, and digital painting is, at the end of the day, just extremely fast. You can have a painting done in a fraction of the time than you could in a traditional medium. Now, of course, there's always exceptions to this rule, and I'm not going to say that traditional is always slower than digital, but for the most part, you're going to be able to pump out a lot more images if you're working digitally. So let's talk about why you shouldn't paint digitally. If you're a beginner, there is a trap that digital artists can fall into, and that's not learning the basics of art. There can be just a desire to jump in without learning, for example, color theory or proportions or gesture. And with traditional mediums, I've found that it's easier to learn the fundamentals. For example, if you're working with traditional paint, you can actually physically see how the paint mixes, and this will help with your understanding of color and color theory. Now, this can be done digitally, but I think it's just a little bit easier to see and experience actual physical paint mixing with each other. As we talked about earlier, there's no original to sell for digital painting. You only have prints to make. And this can really cut into your profits as an artist if you never have an original to sell. Now, when I was in the children's book industry, most artists that I was working alongside worked digitally because it's just faster and you can crank out a lot more work. And so that doesn't necessarily mean that it wasn't worth as much, but there's just some differences. So when you're drawing digitally, you're drawing on a screen or on a tablet of some sort, and there's just a different feel, especially when you're drawing, to not have that tug of the paper. You're not actually mixing and feeling the paint moving around. And so there's a tactile experience that is lost when you're digitally painting. This may not matter to you as an artist, but just be mindful that there is an experience that is sometimes lost when you're digitally painting as opposed to traditional mediums. Another thing is that clients may ask for very large revisions to an illustration because in the digital world, it's easy to make a change. And so sometimes you have to be careful and watch out for that. So by now you may be feeling a little bit confused as to, oh gosh, which one works for me? And I want to give you another option, and that is to do both. For a long time there, I actually watercolored in a traditional way on paper with real watercolors. I'd scan that into my computer and then paint over top of it with Photoshop. Now, coming up later this year, I'm going to have a full course on this in which I will show you how to actually do this. And I think it kind of takes the best of both worlds and combines them in a really special way. You get the real paint on paper textures. You're not trying to fake textures in Photoshop, and you get the flexibility of the digital world. So check that out. I'll make sure to keep you all posted as to when that comes out. So my recommendation is to try both. Try as many mediums as you can. You're never gonna know which one is gonna work best for you. I've been painting for years only to find out that really I enjoy oil painting quite a bit. And I just never took the time to really dive into it and discover that I liked it a lot. So maybe you've only been painting traditionally. Well, I would encourage you to try out a digital painting experience. There's really easy ways to get into it, and you may find that you really enjoy it. Don't get stuck in a rut, and be an explorer of art. Well, hey, I hope today somehow helped you choose which one you want to explore next, whether it's traditional or digital painting, and stop arguing about it. There's great things about either medium, and of course disadvantages as well. So go out and try a new medium today. Remember that you are valuable, that you're creative, and that you are loved. Thanks so much for joining me today, and we'll see you in the next video.